Today, I just wanted to jump on and have a chat about feminine energy. I've known about this concept of, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and the fact that we all, no matter what our gender is, we all have both energies inside of us. Some people are more in touch with one or the other. Like I said, doesn't matter what gender. I personally am like a very non-binary person anyways. I'm going to actually make a whole other video on masculine energy because I've gone on my own personal journey with just focusing on the divine masculine within myself. But this video, I want to talk about the feminine energy and what actually is, what it means to be in touch with feminine energy, and how I've integrated it into my life and what that's actually opened up for me and the kind of experiences I've had because of it. So I first became aware of the concept that we all have, this polarity within us of feminine and masculine energies, probably like 2 years ago. And with the feminine energy, what I've learned is that feminine energy is not necessarily about the way that you dress, about the way that you present yourself. Feminine energy is creative energy. So when it comes to expressing yourself in the way that you dress, feminine energy, it does play a part, but it doesn't necessarily mean in the typical form of femininity. Being in touch with your feminine energy when you're expressing yourself in the way you dress, that can just be dressing in a really creative and expressive way, because feminine energy is just creative energy. So feminine energy is creative. Feminine energy is more passive. Feminine energy is stillness. Feminine energy is emotional. Feminine energy is a lot of things, but it's not necessarily what society and the media portray femininity or feminine energy to be. Feminine energy has so much more to do with states of being than anything else. Actual feminine energy is so much more to do with rest, emotions, being creative, tuning into that inner voice, learning how to be more soft with yourself and with others, but also learning how to be more assertive and discerning at times. Feminine energy is both soft and fierce. Feminine energy is the energy of receiving rather than doing and giving. It's the energy of receiving and being, and learning how to open ourselves up to being able to receive. So feminine energy essentially has a lot to do with learning how to be rather than doing feminine things. Learning how to be in touch with our feminine energy, no matter what gender we are. It has a lot to do with learning how to be still, learning how to take more time to slow down and be with ourselves and our emotions. Just that's basically what feminine energy is. Yes, it also has to do with being creative, but I find that when it comes to creativity, I feel the process of being creative requires a mixture of both masculine and feminine energy. It's feminine energy brings that ideas, all of that juiciness, but creativity needs masculine energy too. We need to take action to be creative. So I believe that even though the feminine might be the energy that comes up with all the ideas, for creativity to exist, it needs both the masculine and the feminine. And we all know that when we give ourselves time to sit and be still and like slow down, that's where we receive the ideas for creative projects, for anything really. Like the best way to come up with new ideas is to give ourselves space and time to just be and just be still. And that's where the feminine energy is playing its part. Being in touch with our feminine energy has everything to do with slowing down and learning how to be more still, to be more in touch with our emotions, to listen to our inner voice and our intuition. Feminine energy has everything to do with that aspect of life. And so really, over this past entire year, that is like the pinnacle of what I've discovered feminine energy really is. And yes, out of that comes so many things, like ideas, creative ideas, and grace, and softness, and also discernment. And it makes so much sense, you know, like thinking about the society, the world that we live in. It makes sense that it is such a masculine dominated world, because a lot of us are so resistant to being still, to taking the time to tune into ourselves, taking the time to even just rest, just feel our feelings. Like this society, this world is just like constantly, you know, giving us stimulation and things to do, and it makes so much sense when you think about it. It's like so many of us are so out of touch with our inner feminine. As I was saying before, the feminine energy is the energy that allows us to be open, to being receptive to the things that we actually want, the things that we're actually looking for and trying to manifest. Absolutely, it's important to take action. When it comes to manifestation, we do need to take action. We do need that masculine energy to make things happen. But if we're not also taking the time to like be still and like tune into our feminine energy, how are we ever going to be open to receiving what we're working towards? It is so important to find that balance and find time and space to sit with the deeper parts of ourselves. When you think about the yin yang, the dark part is the feminine and the light part is the masculine. It's like known that the negative charge is the feminine and then the positive charge is the masculine. Like even when it comes to, you know, electronics like chords and stuff like that, it's not that the feminine is always negative. It's just like not that the masculine is always positive. But it's like when you get down to what the essence of feminine energy is, it is more of the being more still and receptive and like tuning in deeper, tuning into those parts of ourselves that we usually try and run away from. And that's why it's like it can be seen as like the darker part of the whole. It's the part of ourselves that we in this society are taught to constantly be running away from. But let me tell you, getting in tune with this part of ourselves is like life changing. It is insane what I've experienced since I've been really dedicated to becoming more in tune with and embodying more of my feminine energy. But yeah, so I'd like to, yeah, also share a little bit like about what I have experienced, because I was like for a lot of this past year alone, just like I wasn't working, I was just really working on myself. Like I just took, I think it was almost an entire year that I didn't work because of some really heavy stuff that happened, and it just kind of sent me into that, but I'm really grateful for it. But yeah, so basically like nearly a whole year where I wasn't working, and so I dedicated pretty much that entire time to working on myself and learning everything that I could possibly learn about how to actually balance out my inner masculine and feminine energies. So it's been a process of like knowing when it's time to rest and knowing when it's time to be more in touch with my feminine energy and in touch with my emotions. And then also creating structure and discipline, which is like the masculine energy. So I spent a whole year working on this myself, and then it was about 6 months ago now, I like slowly started to come out into the world more. Like I had a DJ gig at this festival in Tasmania, and that was kind of like the first big social gathering. And at the time, like right before that trip as well, I'd been super focused on like just really just cultivating like my feminine energy more so than my masculine. And so yeah, going out into the world and catching that flight, it was just like all of these really attractive men were like just drawn to me. And it was like when I arrived in Tasmania, I was waiting to be picked up from one of the people who like from the festival. And so I was like, I sat on this bench, and this band kind of like came to wait and like right there, and the like lead singer of the band like sat right next to me. Yeah, and he was just flirting with me hard. Even on the plane, there was this one dude who was like sat in the seat behind me, and it was just like this chemistry. He was just asking me all these questions, and he was just so interested in who I was. And it was like the same with this dude from the band, like the lead singer. Like he just wanted to know so much about me, and I was just like, yeah, cool, like whatever. And like literally like the whole trip, like the whole entire trip, it was just like the masculine just being super drawn to me, or you know, really wanting to help me, or like supporting me. It was just all these little experiences where these men were just, you know, either like really interested in me and wanting to know more about me and just obviously being attracted to me, or they just were like wanting to be really supportive and helpful. Like that whole entire weekend was actually very healing for me, because it was one of the first times I'd been out in the world after such a long period of isolation. It was a big learning experience in me, learning how to actually reach out and ask the masculine for support and help, and being able to receive it. It's like it was being offered to me a lot of the time, especially initially, but then it was like I took some mushrooms, and I ended up experiencing something that's called mushroom paralysis. Because I didn't take a super high dose, I didn't get like fully paralyzed. There was a couple of times though where my legs literally did give out underneath me, and I was technically paralyzed. Like I couldn't stand up, I couldn't walk, like I wasn't able to use my hands properly sometimes. So there was times where I had to ask people to help me like zip my pants up and things like that. So it was like a super vulnerable weekend. I felt so strongly that it was a big initiation for my divine femininity, in the sense of like learning how to be vulnerable, and that it's okay to be vulnerable and to ask for help and support. Over the whole weekend, most of the people that were supporting me and being there for me and helping me were men. Like there was this one girl that I like ended up having a really good connection with, and I did like hang out with like, women over the weekend, but for some reason, yeah, it was just that was the theme of the weekend, and there were so many men around me that just wanted to support. It was really beautiful. It was really healing for me. So that was kind of like the first time I noticed it manifesting in my external reality, like the effects of what actually getting in tune with my inner divine feminine energy, you know, the reflection of that, you know, in the external world. Like that kind of stuff happens to me a lot now. Like it's just kind of becoming normal. Going on a bit of a tangent, but this book is freaking life-changing. Like this book, everybody should read it. It's Women Who Run with the Wolves, which is a amazing book. I highly recommend it. Written by a psychoanalyst, and she's also a storyteller, and she basically weaves this like intricate poetry that, you know, each chapter is actually a psychological activation of, you know, something within our psyche. It's like each chapter is an initiation. I've had to take a few weeks to a month to read each chapter. It's literally life-changing. Like it's so insane. It's like alchemy, this book. The way that she's written it is so incredibly just wow. Like I don't think that I'm always really strongly in my feminine energy. Like I'm quite a non-binary person. Like sometimes I do feel more in my masculine, but I feel lately that it's starting to be more integrated. Like I feel like I'm embodying both at the same time a lot of the time, but there are certain days and times and moments where I'll feel really deeply in my feminine, and basically what I'm being reflected back in my external reality is just like a deep respect and admiration from the masculine. And it's not all, like I said, it's not constantly, it's not all of the time, but ever since I started doing the work, and like ever since I went to that festival, even when I'm not in that space where I'm like really in touch with my feminine energy, since that festival, it's like this particular energy and respect and admiration from the masculine. It's been pretty incredible and very healing to have done enough work on myself to be reflected this level of masculinity that growing up I was not taught existed. My upbringing and my conditioning, like I would have never even realized that the level of masculinity that I'm experiencing now, this is how it should be. And like for like people who aren't traumatized, who are securely attached and haven't gone through all of the trauma, like this is just normal. Like this is just normal masculine behavior. And that was the thing. It was like I needed to take the time to be still and sit with myself and heal those parts of me so that I could receive the masculinity that I deserve. And like for a long time I knew that I deserved better in terms of relationship. Like there was something in me that always knew that I deserved better, and it's just been so relieving and healing to reach a place where I'm truly being reflected more and more of that like healthy divine masculine energy that exists in the world. It was just that I had to take time to get in tune with my true feminine energy and heal my feminine energy so that I could be receptive to the masculine. And yeah, I think with that, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you're taking care of your beautiful, beautiful self. Until next time, peace.